Thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Bob Mitchell from the great state of Florida, and we've got Jimmy Fielding in the other box from the pretty good state of Arkansas. So we're glad to have you guys here joining us for this webinar. We're going to be covering a lot of different things here as far as liftgate charging systems, taps, that sort of thing, different products that we have. The idea of this webinar is set up so that you as fleet managers can understand our system a little bit better, maybe sidestep some issues or some problems, and be able to give you something for your drivers to train on as well. This webinar is going to be available tomorrow, the next day on YouTube. So when you have a new driver, you're able to maybe show them this. Some of the reason this came about, I was at a major retailer's DC last 2 weeks ago, and one of the drivers actually came up to me and says, "Hey, I see your system on these trailers. What exactly does it do?" So I was able to kind of walk her through that. This is with that in mind. This is why we have set this up together. So we're going to be covering some of our select and direct liftgate charging systems, as you see here. We like to refer to it as the brain and the brawn. Before I get into that, though, the idea behind our Purkeys system is set up to prioritize charging for your liftgate batteries. We will not rob from your starter batteries to fill your liftgate batteries. It does you no good to have good liftgate batteries and your truck won't start. So that's what our nose box, what the brain does for our systems.
And that, sorry, Bob, just jump in there. Really, that's how we base 90% of our products.
Yes.
We want to keep a balanced system. We don't ever want to jeopardize one system to charge another system. So same goes for the majority of our products.
Sure. And that's what we have that in mind, so that, and sometimes we hear complaints, well, your system doesn't work. Well, no, it's because the starter batteries aren't high enough for our system to work, which is why it's not working. So you don't want our system to work because you're going to end up with a no start situation. So sometimes those problems come about. But as we're talking about the brain here, we have our select and direct systems, and we have two different, the old version and the new version of what we have there. You can see the different nose boxes. You guys may have encountered those on your lots. And then, of course, you have the plus, the flex, and the max. So those are the liftgate nose boxes that we have there. So the brain of the system, you have the control module at the front of the trailer, which you guys have seen, has the lights on it that tells you exactly what you need to know about the status of your liftgate batteries. This is one of the big features that we offer as well. A driver is able to look at the lights, and we'll talk about that more in detail in a little bit, but they can look at the lights and say, yeah, my liftgate batteries are in good shape. If it's blinking orange, well, I've got a problem. I need to not take this load out or take it to the shop before I get going and check the status of that. So that's what that control module tells for you, wired through. And of course, at the liftgate battery box, we have our DC to DC inverter, which amps up. The idea behind our system is you lose a lot of voltage between the nose from the starter and the tractor to liftgates. There's going to be a lot of voltage drop that happens there. So that's where we have this DC to DC that boosts up that voltage to get put right into your liftgate batteries. Did I say that correctly, Jimmy?
Yes. Yeah. It's a boost charger. It's basically eliminating that voltage drop. But one other thing, that previous slide that shows all those different nose boxes, just keep in mind that the logic is the same regardless. You have, some systems that have the built-in, dual pole, single pole, or even the 7-way receptacle, and some that utilize the external or the already existing dual pole, single pole. But logic is all the same.
That's correct. So again, that's the part of the brain of the system, and then we have the brawn of the system, which actually, funny enough, Jimmy is the brain and the brawn of the Purkeys system. So he covers both of those. But so the idea of that DC to DC, as I just mentioned before, is to boost up that voltage. Whenever your batteries are at a perfect state of charge at 13.2, you have less sulfation. Your batteries are going to last longer. So you're increasing the life of your batteries by keeping them charged, topped off, if you will. And of course, it reduces unplanned downtime. Liftgate going down, not coming back up is a call to the maintenance department, is a road call, and obviously costing money and downtime. It helps the liftgate work more efficiently. A lot of the diodes, the electrical pieces to that liftgate, when they have a full charge going at them, are going to operate a little bit more efficiently. And then, of course, in cold weather, nobody likes to work in cold weather. I'm from Florida. Cold weather is 65 or below. So when it's cold outside, those batteries need more energy. So they're going to need, obviously, the DC is able to pump them up that way. So the features and benefits of the Select, we just talked about the different charging sources. Obviously, you can see from here, you have the dual pole setup and the 7-way setup as well, and you can charge from the reefer as well. All those going into the liftgate batteries. We're going to talk a little bit more about the dual pole, but one of the advantages of the 7-way is that you always have to set the 7-way up. So when you're using that option, the driver doesn't miss. And sometimes this is the problem. The drivers don't plug in the dual pole, and you're not getting the charge on those batteries. But that's why I have a couple options there.
The key note is you're not getting all of those options all at the same time. There is an order of operations. Dual pole being the first choice. That's our preferred choice. Second, if there's a reefer available and that reefer is running, but the driver, didn't plug in the dual pole, then we're going to automatically switch to the reefer. And then, of course, if the reefer is not running, we'll automatically switch to the 7-way.
So, in the feature of the benefits of the direct, where there again with the dual pole being plugged in, you're getting straight one charging source, dual pole, right from the truck into the liftgate batteries. Assuming that the truck's voltage is high enough to charge that. There's a cutout there, and we can set those up however you want them. But that cutout won't charge the batteries if it's too low. So thus again, saving your starter batteries in your truck. So why dual pole matters? As we just talked about, it is our number one preferred charging method because it goes directly from the tractor starter batteries into the liftgate. We do have an extended charging feature that is able to be taken advantage of with that. And Jimmy, can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So being that the dual pole or even single pole, dual pole is the preferred. I know there's still fleets out there that do use single pole. I highly suggest you switch those to dual pole. It's just a much better connection. But unlike the aux circuit of the 7-way, dual pole is the direct connection to the tractor batteries when it is plugged into the trailer. Much bigger cable, the integrity of that circuit's much better. But speaking on just the extended feature, off the dual pole, there's some additional opportunity charging that the Purkeys systems are designed to help take advantage of that. So basically, driver gets to their stop, either the truck's automatically going to shut off, or the driver shuts the truck off. There's still some opportunity there to pull from those tractor batteries without jeopardizing those tractor batteries.
Yeah, you're still getting some opportunity juice there.
Exactly. So we have what's called the extend charge feature, where we'll continue to pull power off those truck batteries for up to an hour. And during that 1 hour time period, we're constantly monitoring the truck to make sure we're not jeopardizing the truck. I'm not going to go into all those voltages, but for drivers, that's key, and that's why it's so important to if you're equipped with dual pole, to make sure you're plugging those in, because there's a lot of opportunity charging there. that if you don't plug it in, you're not taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, and as you can see from the slide there, drivers, if equipped, do not forget to plug in the dual pole stinger cord. So that's obviously a big piece. Very little charging happens when it's not connected. So big piece to make sure we're doing in that direction. So that comes up to our first poll question. And by the way, before we even get into this poll question, keep in mind, at any point in time you guys have questions, at any point in time you have a situation you want to talk about, you can team chat us on the side there, type it up. Jimmy and I are monitoring that. We'd be happy to answer those questions for you as we read them as we go. But let's get to my first question here. The poll question is, how many possible charging sources does the Purkeys Select Liftgate charging system offer? So if you guys would take a few moments and select 1, 4, 3, or 2. None of the above, so I'm not trying to fool you that way. We'll give you a couple of seconds to fill that out.
Looks like we have 4 of 25 that has submitted, 16%.
Oh,
Now
jumping up now. Yeah, there is extra credit if you get this right. Okay, that's a pretty good number there. Let's go ahead and see how we fared. Oh my, a little bit all over the map there. Well, at least we know it's not one. So
we said select. We do have the direct, which one would be correct. But yeah, the select system offers three charging sources, and that order of operations would be dual pole first. Again, if the dual pole is not available, the reefer, and then 7-way aux circuit as a backup.
Oh, see, I had that wrong.
All right, you're cutting out a little bit, Bob. So keep going.
Talk about. Oh. Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the select and direct basic pre and post trip checks for drivers. And Jimmy, I'm going to let you take care of that.
Awesome. You were cutting out just a little bit there, Bob.
Oh.
All right. So drivers are really the first line of defense. When it comes to, we'll talk about the liftgate charging now, but we have some TAPS information we're going to go over. But really the first thing, way back when we didn't have indicators on the front of the trailer for the Purkeys systems, and quickly realized that's pretty crucial to make sure we have some sort of indication. Of what's going on. So kind of put this little slide together, and it's really showing just our nose box version of the liftgate charging system, the brain. The same rule applies for all the different boxes. It's really kind of a no-go or no-go chart. But starting with, from the left, if you have no LEDs, if the driver notices there's no LEDs on the front of the Purkeys system, they should do something about it. They should definitely report it, but probably shouldn't leave. They shouldn't leave if their fuel is empty or half full. Kind of the same thing with liftgates. Causes a lot of problems when they get on a route and the liftgate batteries are dead. So the nose box is really going to tell you a lot. If the driver notices there's got a solid green on the source and solid green on lift batteries, everything's good. That means we're pulling power from that tractor or that reefer to charge liftgate batteries, and that liftgate battery LED will not go solid green until the voltage rises above 12.8. So solid green on both source and liftgate battery is what you want to see, or what those drivers want to see. If it's blinking orange on the source and the liftgate battery, that means the tractor's low, and the liftgate batteries are low. Should not leave the yard. Should report it. If they got a solid green on the source saying, hey, I got a good source, I'm pulling power from the tractor or the reefer, but my liftgate battery light is still blinking orange, the driver should definitely not leave yet, but those liftgate batteries may be so low that it's going to take a little bit before that voltage comes up. So, wait a little bit, wait for that liftgate battery light to go solid green before leaving. And if it never does, shouldn't leave the yard. Need to, notify someone, because it's possible that you're going to get on a route and those liftgate batteries are going to be too discharged to use the gate.
Jimmy, I don't see blinking green here though. And that's one of those cases where they have a blinking green. So it's not up to 12.8 because it's not solid green. But what would blinking green tell the driver?
Yep, good question. What I always tell drivers is anything blinking on the liftgate charging system, anything blinking, doesn't matter what color it is, it's not charging. Don't want to really dive in. We've got a lot of resources that are available on this webinar, and don't want to get too in depth on the voltages. But yeah, anything blinking is not charging. If it's blinking green, that's just saying, hey, my batteries are at a good state of charge, whether that's on the source or the liftgate batteries. If it's blinking orange, they're at a low state of charge. But it's so important for a driver to make sure those lights go solid green before they leave.
Yeah. So when he pulls up to the truck, you're going to see a blinking liftgate battery blinking green. When he plugs in, it's going to turn solid.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, for a driver, pretty limited on, any kind of diagnostics. Likely not going to have a voltmeter, likely not going to have, fuses available if there's any fuses blown in the system. And this could be a, driver pre and post trip inspection, but wanted to show a few things that the driver could actually do. Number one being, we just talked about it, the LEDs. Make sure those LEDs are solid green before you leave. And if you have to, if they're not, and that driver absolutely has to dive into it a little deeper, look at the converter, the charger that's mounted inside the liftgate battery box. Look at the LED on it. Is it solid green? If it's not solid green, then those batteries are not getting charged. And then moving on to the actual, there's a circuit breaker that's protecting the output from that charger. It's a little 30 amp circuit breaker. It's got a little yellow arm on it. If that little yellow arm is down, that circuit breaker is tripped and no current can flow to those liftgate batteries. And that would be something easy for that driver to simply flip that arm back and reset that breaker. However, that breaker tripped for a reason, so drivers make sure that gets reported. Either at the beginning of your route or at the end of your route. You'll see this mentioned quite often through this webinar is don't forget to report it. And obviously, you see any damage done, if the box is damaged, any kind of damage whatsoever, make sure you report it. So we're going to move on to the next poll question. See if everybody was listening. Blinking green on the Purkeys liftgate charging system controller indicates that the liftgate batteries are getting charged. True or false? So we'll give a few moments here for everyone to submit their answers.
Yeah, I don't see as much participation here.
They're starting to come in.
All right.
There we go. We'll give a few more seconds. All right, let's look at the results. So 28% true, the majority false. Yeah, so like I said earlier, blinking green only indicates that state of charge of either the truck batteries or the liftgate batteries. Blinking green means voltage is good, but we're not charging yet. So that would be false. All right, so moving on. Now we're going to talk a little bit about another system. It's an add-on product. It's called this. We can use it on the select or the direct system. It's called the bypass switch. We call it the 1-2 bypass switch. This shows a picture of it. How the kit looks, but basically it's just a 1-2 switch. If for any reason the DC-DC converter is not working properly, or the Purkeys control box is not working properly, whether that's a bad wiring or a cut in a wire or something, this 1-2 bypass switch allows you to switch to position 2 and use as a backup. Basically, it converts it back to a traditional dual pole setup, where it's a direct connection from the truck batteries to the liftgate batteries. So position 1, and make sure the drivers don't confuse this with, if the pump motors, may have a similar switch, make sure it's the correct switch that's mounted inside the battery box. But position 1 is what it should stay in. That means it's usually going through the Purkeys system, whether that's a select or direct, to charge the liftgate batteries. Obviously, in the off position, there's no charging from either dual pole or Purkeys system. And then, if something were to happen, that driver can switch to position 2 to get that direct path from the truck batteries. So it's simply a backup system. And
Good to
put a
know in
little
a pinch.
animation here. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
I said it's good to know in a pinch, though, that you have that availability.
Absolutely. So I wanted to put kind of show that in a diagram here. You can see the Purkeys select nose box, pulling from the 7-way. You got dual pole, single pole. In position 1, you can see that current is going through the Purkeys system and out of the DC-DC converter straight into the liftgate batteries. Switch to position 2. Now you can see that current flowing straight from the dual pole straight to those liftgate batteries. Just kind of gives you a visual of that path to those liftgate batteries. And another note, this has come up several times with some of the fleets that I work with, is could also get you out of a pinch if the truck batteries are dead. You could actually flip to position 2 to act as a jump starter, because it basically just puts the truck batteries and the liftgate batteries in parallel together. But it's very important, if that is done, make sure it is switched back to position 1, where it's going through the Purkeys system.
And the logic there, I'm sorry, Jimmy, the logic there being, we talked about it before, the DC to DC is actually amplifying the voltage. So when you're in position 2, you're getting some voltage drop between the tractor batteries and the liftgate batteries. You're not getting that amplified charge. So that's why it's important to switch it back to 1, so that you're not losing any of that voltage.
Right. All right, so moving on to another feature, and this is only a feature that's included with what we call the nose box version, where you have the built-in dual pole, single pole, or 7-way receptacle. It's our interior light controller. So we do have a built-in interior light controller on this version of our nose box. And again, just like anything else, interior lights are a power drain on batteries. So we are going to protect the source that we're getting that power from. So we actually shut off via a timer. 15, 30, 60, or 90-minute intervals, and that can be programmed right here on the face. Or we also monitor voltage. So wherever we're getting power, if we're getting power from the liftgate batteries or the truck to power interior lights, we're also monitoring that voltage, make sure we're not jeopardizing that power source. So if the voltage drops below 12.4, we're going to notify. Basically, we flash the interior lights in the trailer to notify that we're about to shut the lights off, either because your time is up or the voltage is too low on the where we're getting that power from. So another cool added feature to the Purkeys liftgate charging system. So now I'm going to turn it over to Bob. He's going to talk a little bit more about another system that we offer, which is our tap system, designed to keep pallet jacks charged inside your trailers.
Thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, this has actually been a really good product for us. We've had a lot of good success with it, and there again, more companies are using pallet jacks. It's something to it's so beneficial for your workers. Obviously, reduced physical strain of having to deal with a manual pallet jack. Your drivers are going to appreciate it more when they're able to use the electric pallet jack, and of course, it can lift more than a standard pallet jack. And so there's some cost savings over time by having electric pallet jacks. But electric pallet jacks have their own problems associated with them. And the fact that they get discharged with it, just like any batteries that we're talking about, they've got to stay at a high state of charge in order for them to work. In typical fashion, you have to remove them from the trailer to be charged. There are charging stations in most warehouses and most DCs, and it takes up a lot of space. And then you have to maintain that. And what we've come up with as a solution is what we call, like opportunistic charging. So much like when you're out for the day and your cell phone starts to drain down and you have a 10-minute drive to go to Aunt Clara's house and you don't want your phone to die before you get there, you plug it in and you get a few minutes of charge on your cell phone. That's what we're doing for our liftgate, for our electric pallet jacks. So what it does, it provides power to the back of the trailer, much like what we talked about before. We're going to use the voltage from our tractor, but not rob voltage from our tractor, so our tractor doesn't start. So we're as the voltage reaches a certain peak, then we're able to start charging. So obviously, power to the back of the trailer. We got a plug in the back where the electric pallet jack will plug into. Enables charging while the vehicle's running. As you got a 20, 30 minute, 1 hour drive down the road to your next stop, you're getting all that charge, topping the batteries off. And as we talked about before with batteries, the more they're topped off, the better they work, the longer life you get out of them instead of draining them down. Keeps the pallet jacks charged when you're on the run. It's enclosed in a rugged stainless steel case. And obviously you see that case there that is mounted up under the trailer, or we can mount it inside the trailer. We have a couple different mounting options for that. And as I mentioned before, it has those safety features to protect the source batteries or your truck batteries.
One of the things, sorry, Bob, I wanted to add in there. One of the things I've heard from drivers or even technicians is they just got the trailer sitting there and they're trying to plug in their pallet jack, but it's not working. To kind of reiterate what Bob was saying, the truck has to be running for that tap system to work. So that's a little bit of a common thing that I hear is, well, it's not working, and they just didn't understand that they had to have the truck running for that system to turn on, because we don't want to jeopardize your truck.
Yeah, you can't. It's hard to drive an electric pallet jack back to the shop. You want to be able to take the tractor back there. So yeah. So we're converting DC power from the tractor to the 110 VAC power in the trailer. So plug in your standard plug for electric pallet jacks or whatever you needed to charge for that matter. So we have that plug back there. And we'll show that plug in just a second here, how that works. Only, as Jimmy mentioned, only charges when the tractor's running. and keeps the tractor and trailer electrical systems balanced. There again, we're never going to rob from one to disable another kind of thing. So we want to make sure we're balancing all those systems out. So just like with our liftgate charging system, we have an LED piece there.
So we had real quick before you dive into that, we had a question. Is the 110 outlet provided from Purkeys or the trailer OE? So yes, we do include really we include everything, but we do include a GFCI outlet, 110 outlet with our kit. Comes with various, options as far as, is it a recessed? We have enclosures for a recessed. If you have a refrigerated trailer or insulated trailer, you can recess that 110 outlet, or a beveled outlet box for like a dry van. But yes, we do include the 110 outlet.
So like as mentioned about our other systems, we have LEDs that kind of a driver can go back and take a look wherever the box is mounted, wherever you guys decide to mount the box, and look to see that unit is working. As you can tell there, green solid is always what we want to have. Green blinking, as we talked about before, it means it's not charging. It's in a good state of charge, but it's not charging. So orange solid, obviously the taps is off, or orange solid, from the fault LED, it's under voltage. Orange blinking means it's over voltage. Of course, yellow solid is over power, and yellow blink, it's over temperature. So those are some things we need to monitor, and your drivers are able to take a look at that. And as we mentioned before in this, let's call that in. Let's make a note of it. Let's tell the maintenance department what's going on with those systems. But so they're able to, you drivers are able to kind of check that and see how that's working. So here is the GFCI outlet that Jimmy was just talking about. You want to discuss that a little more, Jimmy?
Yeah. So really one of the, I would say the biggest issue, and it's not really an issue, but talking to fleets that run this system, biggest thing they run into is, the system's not working. Well, they found out that the GFCI was tripped for some reason. That GFCI tripped and was not producing the 110 output to charge the pallet jacks. So just like any normal household GFCI, you just have to reset the breaker. That's probably the number one call that I get on the tap system is the GFCI outlet is tripped.
And here's a good example of the recessed box that we were talking about too.
Yep, that's correct. All right. Oops. You hit the button at the same time. All right. So I'm going to go over, just like we had with the liftgate charging, some basic pre and post trip checks for drivers on the tap system. And you're probably not going to have the driver really dive, too much into, or if any at all, into the actual batteries themselves. But there's a lot of things they can visually see. Obviously, disconnect power, but visual checks. That's so important for drivers. If they notice something, report it. If there's any corrosion, cracks, leaks, whatever, make sure you report those issues so they get fixed. And that's on the actual pallet jacks themselves, not pertaining to particularly the tap system. Electrical inspection. Make sure a lot of them have these Anderson connectors on the pallet jacks. Make sure, all those connections, are proper. They don't look like you see in the pictures here. You got wires frayed out, melted connectors. Just make sure drivers are paying attention to that and reporting those if they see them. Again, the key is to charge these electric pallet jacks in the trailer. It's hard to charge them when you have bad connections like this. So again, make sure and report it. Again, kind of going into the visual inspection, they've got cables that are nicked or cut anywhere. Inspect it all the way to the battery. Just make sure all the connections are good. Again, drivers aren't going to have tools, so but they do have eyes and can visually check all these to make sure everything's in good shape.
And the drivers are the ones that are spending most of the time with the vehicle and with the pallet jack and whatever it may be. So we certainly don't expect them to understand all the electrical components, but they can certainly inspect and see where something doesn't look right and be a help that way.
Absolutely. All right, so on to the last poll question. So if there are any issues with either system, so taps or liftgate charging, and the driver notices something is not right, what is the most important step to take before leaving or returning a route?
And this is not what you hear from your drivers. This is what you want them to do.
Exactly. They are the first line of defense. They're with this equipment all the time. They see all this stuff. So what should they do? All right.
Good participation today.
Absolutely. So we'll move on to the answer. 100%. You nailed it.
Everybody gets a star.
Absolutely. Yeah, we see it a lot in the field. Like when you have road calls, that's a big one. A road call, someone comes out to fix the system. Their job is to get that trailer going no matter what. Well, oftentimes they don't understand the system, so they have to rewire things and make it work. But what often happens is that trailer never gets properly fixed after that road call. So drivers, you can really help out with this by simply reporting everything you see. So that really concludes our webinar. If you have any questions, we'll stay on a little bit. Please feel free to submit your questions. Don't forget to stick around for a brief survey at the end. Tell us tell us how we did. Need more information. Also always looking for ideas for new webinars.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for. We're here to help.
Yeah, we put these webinars on for our customers, for you guys to help as much as we can. And maybe there's a spot that we don't see that we could help you guys with. Certainly all ideas are welcomed.
We're very flexible. If there's, like I showed that graph with the go, no go on the LEDs for the lift charging, we're going to make that a document. We have a lot of documents that are included in the resource section of this webinar that have all that information, but sometimes digging through all that, you get lost in maybe too much information for a driver. So we're always up for making things easy.
And that really was the purpose behind this webinar, wasn't it? So if you have a new driver, hey, check out Bob and Jimmy here. They're going to talk to you about the liftgate charging systems and the tap systems, and able to kind of do a little training before they get out on the road.
All right, so we don't have any questions coming in. So we'll call that the end. Again, with no questions coming in, don't forget to fill out the survey, and thank you for the participation, and look forward to the next webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.